The year is 1966. Gas is 31 cents a gallon. The average movie ticket price is $1.09. The Orioles win the World Series and beat the Dodgers in a 4-game sweep. Americans are divided over the war, as America now has a total of 500,000 troops in Vietnam. The Beatles, the Beach Boys, and the Rolling Stones are on top of the music charts. The Bible is the highest grossing film of the year. Tom Cruise is 4 years old. And all major broadcasting networks were now airing all their shows in color, which led to a television boom. Lots of shows would now air for the first time in color. 3 would debut and become immortalized in pop culture history. Batman, starring Adam West, would debut on January 12, 1966. Star Trek, starring William Shatner, would debut in September 8, 1966. And a week later, another television series would debut. Mission Impossible aired its first episode on September 17, 1966 on CBS and became an instant hit. Created by Bruce Geller in order to bring the spy and espionage genre to the small screen. The series starred Peter Graves, Barbara Bain, Martin Landau, and Greg Morris. The series would follow a group of special agents working for the Impossible Mission Force, a top-secret organization within the U.S. federal government that would give highly classified and extremely dangerous missions to their covert agents, which usually entailed them thwarting hostile dictators, corrupt industrialists, drug kingpins, and others. The show ran for 7 seasons, which is pretty incredible when you think about it. Batman and Star Trek, who were also huge hits at the time, only had 3 seasons before they were canceled. When I was a kid, I never saw reruns of Mission Impossible. Doesn't mean they didn't air, I just never saw them. That also includes the 1988 series revival, which also starred Peter Graves as the team leader. It was only a matter of time before someone in Hollywood got the rights to the property so they could adapt it, either to a motion picture or another television series. Enter Tom Cruise and Paula Wagner. The pair formed their own production company in order to give Tom Cruise more control over the roles he takes and more of an interest in the development and the direction of the story. With that, the pair went to Paramount and pitched the idea of adapting Mission Impossible for the big screen, starring Tom Cruise. Paramount agreed and gave them $70 million to boot. And thus, the first Mission Impossible is born. Fast forward 27 years, and Mission Impossible has become a blockbuster franchise. With 6 films in its catalog and 2 more on the way, the Mission Impossible series has become a mainstay in action films. People love it, and I can finally understand why. See, I wasn't a fan of Mission Impossible. I was of the first one, but after that, the series lost me. I stopped after Jar Jar Abrams' 3rd installment. But with the series coming to an end, and Dead Reckoning Part 1 soon to be released, I decided to go back and take a look at these films and see why everyone was so crazy about them and why they were so successful and why people loved them so much. So I sat down and watched all 6 of these films so I can rank them from worst to best. So without further ado, let's get started with number 6. Mission Impossible 2 is probably the worst Mission Impossible film, in my opinion, because it feels too much like the 90s. Yes, it has some cool action scenes. I mean, there's cool car chases, there's cool motorcycle chases, there's everything you'd want in action, but it's done in the 90s style and in the John Woo style, where everything is slow motion. Every single thing. It's too many shots of slow motion. The wardrobe is so dated. Everything about this movie is dated, and it's sad because this movie came out in the year 2000. I mean, the story is pretty interesting if you're into conspiracy theories. You have this MIF agent, Sean Ambrose, that goes rogue, and he steals this virus and its cure. Chimera is the virus, and Bella Reforma, the cure. He steals this and wants to unleash it into the world. This way, he has the cure and could profit in the stock market. Isn't that a coincidence? When this movie came out, we thought that was too far-fetched to believe, so give it points for that. But then again, it suffers from the action. Too much slow motion, too much John Woo, too much doves, too much leather, too much hair. And the villain was kind of lame, to be honest. I mean, they tried their best to make Sean Ambrose like a formative villain. Oh, he was a former MIF agent. He knows everything about Ethan Hunt. He even knows his skill sets. Oh my God, he could counter. He knows what Ethan's gonna do before Ethan does it. You know, oh, and then they're in love with the same woman. But all in all, it's not a terrible film, but for the Mission Impossible series, this is the worst of the worst. It's too long, and I hear that John Woo wanted to make it actually 4 hours long, which is unbelievable. It's a okay action film. It's a terrible sequel, honestly, to a really good movie. It feels so different from the first Mission Impossible film because it is, and that was the idea, that all these films would be different and unique. But this one's so out there compared to the entire franchise. Well, this is just my opinion. I didn't like this movie when it came out, and I still don't like this movie till today. I watched it and I was pretty bored because it was pretty long and it wasn't as enjoyable as the other films in this series. That's why Mission Impossible 2 is number 6. Number 5. Mission Impossible 3, directed by J.J. Abrams. Now, the reason why this is number 5 and is so low on the list is not because of the action. The action is great. I have zero complaints about the action in this film. The problem with this movie is the story, and it's because it's just your typical J.J. Abrams type of film with his buddies, Robert Orci and Alex Kurtzman. These two are garbage writers, and it shows in this movie right here. Okay? J.J. Abrams talks about mystery box, and what do we have in this movie? Nothing but mystery boxes. We don't know till today what the white rabbit's foot was, or rabbit's foot. We don't know what it was. Was it a bioweapon? I believe it was because it had the biohazard symbol on it. What does it do? In the last movie, we knew what the Crimea did and what the purpose of stealing it was, wanted to sell it. This one, we don't know anything. It's like we don't need to know. It's just mystery box, man. It's a mystery box. Ethan Hunt is now retired. He's no longer a field agent. He now trains field agents. But he's brought back into the field when his friend Musgrave tells him that his old student Lindsay, who he trained to become a field agent, has been kidnapped. She was working undercover for an arms dealer named Owen Davian, greatly played by Philip Seymour Hoffman. But Ethan wants really nothing to do with this because he is engaged to be married. He's in love. He's ready to retire from the IMF altogether. But because it's Lindsay, who he sees as a younger sister, he decides to go and try to rescue her. Then the movie continues on where he does rescue her, but Lindsay had a bomb planted inside her brain. Then, through a long series of convoluted events, Ethan is now being forced by Owen Davian to go grab this MacGuffin in order to save his fiance's life. That's why I dislike this film. I don't hate it. I think the action is phenomenal, but the story is your typical Robert Orci, Alex Kurtzman, J.J. Abrams bullshit. I will say this film gets points because of Michelle Monaghan. Also, it introduces Simon Pegg's character, Benji, into the series. So it gets points for that. Not a terrible film, just not one of the better ones. Number 4. Mission Impossible, directed by Brian De Palma. It's really hard to believe that a Brian De Palma film is not on top of the list, but unfortunately this one is not. It's not a bad movie at all. It's one of the better ones. The only problem is, lately the Mission Impossible films have gotten better and better. I remember really enjoying this movie when it first came out, then rewatching it and not liking it so much. And now, after all this time, I went back, sat down and watched this film and really enjoying this. I think this is one of Brian De Palma's best films. In fact, I think this is one of the best spy espionage films ever made. De Palma's directing style fits perfect with this film as it's more of a suspense thriller than an action film. Jim Phelps leads his team to track down a traitor who has stolen one half of the knock list, a list of all government undercover agents. Fortunately, he only stole the half that's their code names, but he is getting ready to steal the other half that will connect the code names to the real agents' names. As the team tries to set out to catch the traitor, they are systematically wiped out one by one, with the only survivor being point man Ethan Hunt. Now the MIF have disavowed Ethan and he needs to find the real traitor and the buyer of the knock list in order to clear his name. The only negative thing I can say about this film is that it's a little too slow at parts, but besides that, it's almost a perfect movie. And De Palma was the perfect choice to direct this. Just look at the scene where Ethan's being debriefed about the assignment that went wrong. It's shot relaxed and normal, and so Ethan breaks down that he's aware that there was another team sent to the same operation, and he points each agent out in the restaurant to Kittredge. We start to get that the Palma style of directing where we get the Dutch angles, but they're also incredibly close. Like, we can feel the tension in the room. So Ethan comes up with his escape plan. Honestly, after rewatching this film, I have to say this is one of top 10 Brian De Palma's best films. Not in the top 5, there's no blowout, but it's definitely in the top 10. But like I said, the movies just keep getting better and better from here. If this was the only Mission Impossible film ever made, ever, like Tom Cruise decided never to do a sequel, this would have been perfect. This would have been the best. But they decided to keep going, and they get better and better and better. But this one is unique and perfect. It's a perfect little film. You could rewatch it to today, and it doesn't feel dated. This is a really good movie. Number 3, Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation, directed by Christopher McQuarrie. I will say that the action in this movie is completely phenomenal. This film probably has the best action in almost the entire series. I mean, Christopher McQuarrie is a phenomenal director. It's crazy. I think this is like his second directorial debut, I guess. He's written a bunch of stuff with Tom Cruise in it, Jack Reacher and Valkyrie, but this is like his first time being a director, and this is really great. This is action-packed. You got bike chases, car chases, hand-to-hand combat, some of the best car chases I've seen in a very, very long time. This movie is really like a roller coaster ride, or a baby roller coaster, because Christopher McQuarrie comes back to direct another movie. But seriously, this is a really, really good movie. There's nothing negative I can say about it at all. And I think this is the perfect IMF team, or well, the IMF is basically shut down in this one. But this is the team I like. This is the if it was IMF, this is the team I would want. It's Tom Cruise, Jeremy Renner, Simon Pegg, Ving Rhames, and Rebecca Ferguson. That's the team. This is the perfect team. Even though Rebecca Ferguson in this movie is not on the team, she's introduced in this movie as the British intelligence. But this is just a really great film that actually leads up to the to Fallout. Because it's basically about there's an anti-IMF out there. It's called the Syndicate, and when IMF is shut down and Tom Cruise discovers that this organization exists, he sets out on his mission to destroy this organization. And he's a little bit crazy in this because he's just determined. He kills himself. Basically, he kills himself in that underwater scene because he needs to do this. And if it wasn't for Hila, he would have died. And the only reason why it's at number 3 is because I had only a little bit more fun with number 2. Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, directed by Brad Bird. This was the most fun I had watching these films. I enjoyed mostly all of them, with the exception of MI2, but this is the one where I had the most fun. After a mission goes wrong, and the Kremlin is destroyed, Russia blames America because Ethan is caught at the scene. The President of the United States issues Ghost Protocol, and the entire IMF is disavowed. The IMF secretary tells Ethan that he's supposed to bring him into custody, but instead will tell the President that Ethan escaped and sets him on a mission to find the terrorist named Kurt Hendricks, codename Cobalt, before he can set off a nuclear bomb. So Ethan forms a new team, this time with William Brandt, played by Jeremy Renner, Benji, played by Simon Pegg, and Jane Carter, played by Paula Patton. I like this team. I don't know why Paula Patton didn't come back. Actually, I think I like every female character these films had, except for the first one, Jim Phelps' wife. I didn't like her. They also gave almost everyone motivation. I mean, Benji doesn't have motivation because he's now a field agent, so he doesn't really have motivation besides wanting to, do a good job. But Paul Patton lost her fiance to somebody who works for the Cobalt's organization, so that's her motivation. She wants to get revenge. William Brandt was a former field agent that was assigned to protect Ethan's wife, but she was killed, and because he felt guilty, he decided to push pencils instead. This movie's fun as the follow-up to this. Rogue Nation is a little bit more somber. I guess maybe I like this one a lot more than the rest is because I went from Mission Impossible 1, which I really like, I loved the way it was filmed and everything, to the terrible Mission Impossible 2, to MacGuffin, Mission Impossible 3, don't know what the hell the MacGuffin was. And then to this one, which was like, okay, yes. So yes, I like this one, very much so. That's why it's number 2. Number 1. Mission Impossible Fallout, directed by Christopher McQuarrie. Mission Impossible Fallout so far is the darkest in the franchise, more in the tone than anything else, as Ethan has to deal with how his decision to save his friend's life could cost the lives of millions of people. Solomon Lane returns as the main villain of the film, and his goal is pretty much to watch the world burn, but what he really wants is to get back at Ethan Hunt, as he sets out to set off a nuclear warhead right in the blast area of the only person Ethan Hunt has ever loved, his ex-wife. Almost the whole team returns, minus Jeremy Renner, as he was filming Avengers Endgame. I think Solomon is actually more scarier in this film than he was in Rogue Nation, and that's pretty surprising considering he doesn't show up till like over the 1 hour mark, and he's a prisoner for a majority of the film. So kudos to the actor for being able to portray his hatred for Ethan Hunt so well. We also have another villain in Henry Cavill, and honestly, I haven't seen Cavill in anything other than Superman, and I was surprised in how much I enjoyed him as a villain. Rebecca Ferguson returns, and now we know that Ethan and her have a little something going on for real. I mean, there was a sexual tension in the last film, but now it's a little bit more obvious. Both of them have strong feelings for each other. In fact, Luther even says the only other person Ethan has ever cared about, as long as he's known Ethan, is his ex-wife and her. So I wonder what that's going to lead to in Dead Reckoning. Are they together now? Are they a couple? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. Anyway, this movie is just crazy. It's nonstop action over and over. And I know most of these films are like that, but this one seriously just tops itself. This movie is one big anxiety attack as it goes on and on and on. And when you think it's over, nope, keeps going. Yep, keeps going. In fact, this is the one time with the 2.5 hour runtime didn't bother me at all because it was entertaining from beginning to end. All in all, Mission Impossible Fallout is the best of the 6 films that have been released so far. Now, let's hope Dead Reckoning can surpass this or at least live up to the series standards. This is why Mission Impossible Fallout is my favorite. I think it's everybody's favorite. It truly is a great piece of cinema. Not only that, but just a great action film. I don't think any action film could ever top this, but we're going to have to wait and see, right? Dead Reckoning has to try to top it. So there you have it. I have ranked the 6 Mission Impossible films that have been released. That's my order of how I enjoyed them. If you liked this video, remember to hit the like button. Also, leave a comment down below letting me know what order you like the Mission Impossible films or which one's your favorite and why. I will talk to you guys next time. Peace.